Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the national referendum that's coming up in Australia, and the voting's only in a few days. It's this coming weekend, and it's to vote for those. I'll do some background here for overseas or international listeners, but it's a referendum to vote for whether or not there should be a black-only, in effect, a parliament, a black-only parliament, no whites allowed, black-only parliament, and that group has as yet unknown powers to monitor, advise, prevent, block legislation that the actual parliament of the nation, laws they may try and pass, and laws that have been previously passed. So there's a lot of confusion around this what's called the Voice, trying to get leverage off that musical singing program that's followed by a lot of young people in particular, and it'll be the young people that would carry the vote, or so it's presumed. But anyway, let's have a look at this. It's a referendum to decide for a black-only parliament, and it hasn't been explained yet what powers this parliament would have. So nor has been decided how the people to serve in this parliament will be chosen. Will they be just randomly selected by activists? Will they just be a bunch of activists? Will they be people of sober mind and habit who are legal scholars? Will they be, there's just so little information supplied. How big will the bureaucracy be that they're there to administer? What powers will they have to take matters to the Supreme Court, the High Court of Australia, and have, in effect, legislation from the bench? None of these things are explained. and what the very, very pro-globalist government that we currently have in Australia, what they're saying is that, look, vote for the vibe, vote for the principle. It's a feel-good thing. You're doing something good for black. You're fighting back against Hitler. And if you vote, to support this black only parliament, then you're shoving it, you're sticking it up Hitler, and this has got to be a good thing, hasn't it? So just vote for the principle. Details, who gives a fuck? So this is a message that it works with younger people, but the cool vibe of it all. We're fighting Nazis, but it doesn't really resonate with many other people. So as usual, the grifters are saying, well, it's just those old people. It's the Nazis that are stopping it. And really, we're the good people. We're just saying vote for the good vibe of the principle. You do want equality for black people, don't you? Because if you vote no, that means you're a fucking fascist. So it's the usual grift that's going on here. So, but let's just have a closer look. Now, there was, I think, referendum that the people decide. I think is very important. Now, as both sides sort of present their position, the people that support the black-only parliament, who are all the NGOs, all the globalist-funded NGOs, all the Soros, the entire race grifter industry, because we don't have slavery here in Australia, so we've got a very small black population. So how can you gin up racial division? How can you gin it up? Well, this is perfect. It's tailor-made. The globalists would have gone, holy fuck, now we can bring racial division to Australia. Oh, isn't that fantastic? Well, there's no real racial division. It doesn't matter whether there isn't any. We'll create it if there isn't any. And by the way, if anyone says we're doing it, we'll accuse them of being Hitler. So this is the direction they're going. But I want to go back to the 1950s. So this is in the middle of the Cold War communist scare that's going on. There's been a Russian agent, secret Soviet Union agent that's been discovered working in the Soviet embassy in Australia, and it was called, you can look it up if you want, it's called the Petrov, Petrov, the Petrov affair. And there was very genuine concern that China had recently become communist. there was a war raging in Vietnam with the communists, and which was to go on, for quite some years, to involve the United States and Australia and so on. So there's a lot of the communists were the Soviet communists were very active in Eastern Europe. So it was a time of genuine concern about the spread of communism and the brutality of communism, and it was coming out from various places. The murderous regime of dictator Joseph Stalin in the Soviet Union, and the deaths in China and so on. So it was certainly a topic of wow, these communists are, and like any ideological government, they have to rely on extreme levels of brutality and propaganda and lies to because they don't have legitimacy, because they're ideological. They're not organically voted for or chosen by the people, and because they're ideological, they're imposed. Because they're imposed, they lack the legitimacy. Because they lack legitimacy, they're always nervous and jumpy, and then rely on extreme brutality to maintain control and to ensure conformity of thought. So there was a referendum in Australia where the government, a right-leaning government, decided to, centre-right you'd call them, decided to have a referendum to say to outlaw, to make illegal it to be a communist in Australia. So to outlaw the Communist Party and illegal to be a communist. Now, the definition of what a communist was you look back and say, well, that's a bit on the vague side, guys. But nonetheless, it was put to the people. It was the people's decision, as it should rightly be, by the way, in a democracy. And you'd think that, given the times and the issues going on, there was free propaganda. Well, not propaganda. It was free reporting pretty much everywhere around the world about how terrible the communist regimes were, and so it wasn't like you had needed propaganda. It was being delivered on a plate, and so the people decided against it. So this is the proposition: should the Communist Party be outlawed, and should communists be outlawed? No was the verdict of the people. The people decided no, they must not be outlawed. That if the communists have a better story to tell in terms of their policies and things like that, they can put it to the people. And the big safeguard here was the democratic process, of course, and free and fair elections. Elections that are above reproach in every sense. And so the people rejected the idea. The Communist Party was legally allowed to remain in business in Australia, and communists were legally allowed to put forward their policies, make their claims, to denounce capitalism as being the decadence of the evil capitalist. So that freedom remained, as it should have been, by the way. I think that was an impeccably correct decision by the Australian voters in that election. Now, I should add that I think that at that stage you had to be a minimum age of, I think, of 21 to vote. I don't know. I'm wondering what would have happened if the voting age was younger. But anyway, that was so the people decided to say the Communist Party should. Well, it wasn't by a huge margin, by the way, so it was a close run thing, I guess. But nonetheless, coming now to this voice thing now, this referendum for a black-only parliament. Now, the argument being used is there was recently quite a large, or a number actually, of polls that were taken. Some of them have quite a few, like nearly 5,000. This one I'm looking at, he's got nearly 5,000 people were questioned about or asked for their opinions rather on this referendum. So as polls go, that's pretty big. Now, I don't know how much it was push polled. So, and there's evidence that there was quite a bit. So, say, for example, on push polling, here's a question. Do you think they want to make an issue about colonisation? So they can't do the slavery thing, so they switch to colonisation, which is like the plan B of the grifters. So they say, okay, well, was colonisation positive for Indigenous people? Well, that's a pretty broad question. It's positive because 2,000 years of accumulated Western technology was delivered, immediately into the hands of the Indigenous people, something they could never have done on their own. And so that technology was brought to them, and that would be a good thing, for those who wanted it. Did it disrupt? Did Western diseases, smallpox, that sort of thing, cholera, that didn't exist here, were those diseases killed local people? So that wasn't a good thing. I mean, that would have happened whoever showed up, whether it was folks from Indonesia or around Asia, whoever showed up would have brought disease. So that's hardly unique for, well, colonization did it. No, contact with any outside people would have done that. So there would be positives and negatives. A tribal, a hunter-gatherer tribal lifestyle would have been disrupted by colonization. So in that sense, it would have been disruptive in some ways. The average age of Aborigines lived to was under 40 when white folks showed up. Now it's over 60. So, is that a positive or a negative? White people brought alcohol with them. That didn't work out so well. So that maybe is a negative, and so on and so on. So you could make a number of arguments here. But on the question of that, was colonization positive or negative for the Aborigines? Now, if someone said no, it was bad, it was evil, it was fascist, it was Nazi, then that's an acceptable answer. This is how the push polling works. So no, I think so. So somebody responds, I think colonization was positive for the Aborigines. Are you sure? Oh yeah, I think so. Why do you say that? Because many Aborigines we've spoken to say it's been very traumatic for little children, little babies. It's traumatic. So are you still saying colonization was positive? Are you still saying that? And maybe not. So you're saying no now. So that's the sort of the push polling methodology some of these people, as I understand it, are using. Now, for the people who are supposed to, here's a program that's been put on by a media outlet that claim they are the source of absolutely unbiased truth. Well, we're not biased around here. Absolute truth. Truth is what we deal in, which is a lie. They don't deal in truth at all. They're a bunch of race hustler grifters. So anyway, they say, well, we're the good people, so we support yes. They claim to be impartial, but then clearly say they're supporting yes, that there must be a blacks-only parliament. So what are the reasons? So the yes people are the good people. The yes people are the good. They are the good people, good to the soul, good to the roots of their hair and the soles of their feet. But the people who vote no, well, there are the misinformed idiot drongos, the retarded people who would vote for Donald Trump. There's just the misinformed, the simple people, the people who haven't done gender studies courses at university. Them, what can you do that? They're the first people we should kill off if we ever get total control, by the way. But look, there's them. And then, apart from the ill-informed and the stupid, then the other people are the fucking Nazis, the Hitlers. And there's so many Hitlers are Nazis. So the good people, why were they voting yes? This program was on about? Well, it's to improve outcomes for black people. Now, again, you look at this in a poll and say black people are, and by the way, I've been harassed on the street by activists in the Yes campaign, and I'm talking, radical, ideological, fanatical activists. I'm not talking about impartial people who've made an impartial judgment. Far from it. So you want to improve outcomes. So the question is, well, black people are, 1,000 million times more likely to die in this. They're denied schooling. They're brutally oppressed by evil Nazis and fascists. So question is, would you like to improve outcomes for black people? Oh, yeah. I'd like to improve outcomes. So yeah. I answer. It's no reason why. So that's it. So that's a yes vote there, is presumed. So would you like to create equity, equal outcomes? So white people live to an average age of 80, whereas black people live to an average age of, I don't know what the averages are, by the way, but for example, 65. That 15 fascist Nazi Hitler years difference between the white and the black person. Would you like to address that? Would you like to fix that for that? Would you like to create these equal outcomes? Oh yeah, fucking equal outcomes, too fucking right. Yeah, where's my weed? I need to drop a cone here. So you want to create equity. So all right, yes, that's a yes vote. And we all know how bad things are, how terrible, bad fascist Nazis are in control of everything. Hitler is everywhere. So we know that we have to change. We have to change. We have to change. Yeah, that's right, change. Yeah, we have to change. Okay, so that's the yes vote. Now the no vote, which of course, as we know, are all Nazis. We tell the truth. They tell the lies. That's always a bad division, I think, in a referendum or any vote, really. Rely on your policy. So this is what we're going to do. This is why and how it will help. This is why it will make it. This is why it's needed, and so on. Yeah, so none of them are doing that, or the yes campaign is just not. It's a lovely principle, and it's a beautiful principle: equity and equality, and we're fighting Nazis as well. So that's really the sum total of their program. So the no campaign is all lies. They're the liars, racist, Nazi, fascist, bigots, Hitler. So why are people voting no? Says this is amalgam of some of the surveys here. 32% of the respondents say that if the parliament is this black parliament, if it's for blacks only, then by definition it's dividing a nation by race. It must be. If it's blacks only, then it must be dividing by race. Now that's a statement of the obvious. You don't need to be a Rhodes Scholar or a rocket scientist to be able to work that bit out. If it's a blacks only parliament, then it must be dividing by race. But this is a lie. This is a fucking lie that's put about by those fucking Nazis again. So now 15%, or between 15 and 20%, depending on whose numbers you look at, allege that there's a lack of detail, and such a vague vibes only, principle only proposal puts them off. Why should I vote for something when there's no details there? Now that's interestingly, this program did concede that was a point, and there could have been more detail, but in reality, the people that want to do this blacks only, they're the good people. We are the good people, and you should accept that we're the good people. And you should accept that if you doubt us being the best, the most moral, the most superior, if you doubt that, then that makes you a Nazi. You're a fucking Nazi. So that's okay. All right then. If not Hitler personally. So now 15%, they did concede this was an issue. So what this left-wing, totally globalist controlled government is proposing is, we're not going to tell you how the members of this black-only panel will be selected. We're not going to tell you who they are. We're not going to tell you what they do. We're not going to describe the limits of their powers. We're not going to describe the budget that they're getting. We're not going to describe the size of the bureaucracy. We're not going to say what the limitations of their legal limitations are. We're not going to say what influence they have. We're not going to say what they can do, but vote for it anyway. Now these are because it's the vibe. It's equality. It's equity. And so this is it was conceded that was an issue, even by the people who are ideological fanatics in terms of the yes vote. They did concede that was an issue, but they swept it aside. Well, but again, we're good people and you're Nazis, so you've got no right to question us, you damn fucking fascists. So now, similarly, the idea is that we're only trying to achieve equality and equity. It's only marriage equality. That's all we want. The LGBT. It's only just marriage equality. Are you against that? You fucking fascist. So it's only just equality. Who could be against equality? Are you against equality? You damn fucking Nazi. So Now, the underlying message that here is, look, there's terrible, terrible wrong. A terrible wrong has been done by the white people to the black. A terrible wrong. And we have to put it right. The terrible wrong must be put right. The Nazis did bad things, but we're going to stop those fucking fascist Nazis and we're going to put it right. How are we going to put it right? And details, fuck off, don't ask questions. So this idea that underwrites it, there's terrible wrong that has to be made right. You say, okay, all right, what are these wrong? Well, now the things that they come out with are, and I've been bailed up by activists in the street here, just as like going to the grocery store. There are difference in outcomes with children in education. So now they play a silly game here. They use Aborigines that are in the most remote areas of Australia in small clusters. And so they say, well, those small numbers of Aborigines in remote areas, like in the middle of fucking nowhere, why do they not have the exact same level of facilities as a high school in a built-up area in a city? Why don't they have it? The reason they don't have it isn't because they're in a remote area. No. The reason they don't have the quality of education, as in the size of the school, facilities of the school, and so on, the reason they don't have that is because of fucking racism. Those fucking white Nazi racists are doing it. We've got to stop the Nazi racists and create equity. Well, you've only got really two choices there. You've got to build a fully tricked up, primary school, high school, and so on in every little area that's maybe only got 100 people in it. 100 people in total. That's not 100 kids, by the way. It's 100 people. And then you've got the issue of when the rural areas, they don't really want to go to school. So then you've got the issue where you've got to send out stormtroopers to grab the kids and force them to go to school and then not let them leave the school till the school finishes for the day. I think that would just attract more claims of Nazism, wouldn't it? No. But anyway, so you have to have a massive infrastructure built in these little remote villages. Now, on top of that, the Aborigines who live in the remote villages, they move around quite a bit. So a year or two here, then they'll move 100 miles down the road because that's how they live in the Indigenous or the Indigenous lifestyle in the rural areas. They move around. They're not in a big city. Now, if those same Aborigines wanted to get the same standard of education as in access to it that the white kids do, then they need to move into a wide area or into an area in a city where those facilities and that scale are put in place. So when they say the Aborigines aren't getting equal access, that's what the comparison they make. Kids in the middle of nowhere, but white kids in the middle of nowhere don't have equal access to the same thing. So that's a lie. It's a horrible fucking lie, and the ones they push there. Well, look at this difference in outcomes. Aborigines are having the same access to education. It shows, it proves that fucking Hitler is in charge. So, no, that's a bullshit lie. Now, the other things is Aborigines have different health outcomes. Again, living in remote areas and living the sort of lifestyle they do, they have health issues. I mean, that's beyond dispute. So how is that fixed? Do you have a fully equipped, brutally expensive hospital in every little Aboriginal remote community? Because that's what they do. They compare the remote communities' health outcomes with the health outcomes that are available in the big cities, where there's obviously many more doctors and hospitals and medical specialists and equipment and heart monitoring kits and so on. So they compare the two. They say, well, look at the difference. Look at the only thing that explains the difference isn't the fact they're living out in the middle of nowhere, but the difference is because of fucking fascism. So they create this false dialogue of disadvantage that relates to the lifestyle that the Indigenous the Aborigines want to lead, and that they prefer to lead and choose to lead, and say that now you've got to force them to come to the city, because you wouldn't do it without force, or you have to have fully tricked up, multi-billion-dollar hospitals in every 100-person community out in the middle of nowhere, which you can then pick up and move somewhere else as well. So these are the sort of the issues here. So you need to understand the lies and the untruths And the last thing is the assumption is that the Indigenous Aborigines have no agency in the sense that they can't make the decision to go to school or not go to school. They can't make the decision to turn up for work or not turn up for work. They can't make, so that they have no agency in any sense at all. So they create this completely false narrative of Aborigines being, and they're borrowing heavily from the American black thing, which is, and you see the translation across, they're just reusing the same activist talking points rather than dealing with the issues. Now, over the years, there have been many philanthropic people who've in Australia who've thought, okay, how can we solve this problem? Why won't they integrate? Why are they so different? Why do they refuse to go to school? Why do they do this? Why do they do that? So there was an attempt where, say, the Aboriginal parents had died or whatever, then a lot of these kids, Aboriginal kids, were taken into foster homes. A lot of it run by, say, religious charities and the like. And then they were schooled and brought up with white people. And these folks now have nearly all been moved into, if you like, managerial positions within the hustler and the shakedown community. And affirmative action has given them a lot of jobs and benefits and handouts. Now, on top of that, the amount of money spent on Aboriginal Australians, black Australians, not all of them are fully black, by the way. Even Aborigines that have one drop of, or people that have one drop of Aboriginal blood, like their great-great-grandfather was Aboriginal or something like that, even they are claiming to be Aboriginal, which is sort of the one drop of blood type rule, which is, I'm not sure that's really functional in today's society. But anyway, so the idea is that the monies that are spent on Aboriginal Australians are double what they spent on any other group in society, more than double what they spent any other group in society. And the wastage is chronic. There's like an Aboriginal elite that just cream off the top and become multi-gazillionaires, and they're quite happy to do it at the expense of their own people. So all attempts in the past at integration, assimilation, everything have met with minimal success, mixed success, you'd say, very, very small proportion of success. But would this so-called voice, as they call it, this black-only parliament, solve it or any of it? Well, it assumes that white people are refusing to help in any way, that they're actively not helping or actively trying to prevent Aboriginal health improving or education improving. That's completely the opposite. The cost of not having people assimilated in social cost, taxpayer cost, in every cost imaginable, the cost of having people not assimilated is massive, monumental in every way, quite apart from the propaganda opportunities it gives racist, globalist grifters and so on. So I think there's been very concerted attempts, but there is behavioural differences, and because of behavioural differences, there is a level of prejudice because, well, if 99 out of 100 people are going to behave this way, then why do I bother? I can reasonably assume that the 100th person will probably be the same in terms of their behaviour. So I don't see any of it as racist at all in any way. I see there's, Indigenous Australians are treated differently based on their behaviour, but I don't see anything outside of that. And there have been attempts, sometimes brutal in the past, to try and correct this, and through programs of assimilation and so on. And I don't think they've really worked. Do I know what the answer is? I don't pretend to have all the answers. But what I do know emphatically is that this bullshit Aboriginal-only parliament, black-only parliament, will not even help things one iota. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.